It's been 10 months since she left her bedroom, but Joanne and Tony Reynolds say Adrianne's spirit is still here.
I go in there to talk to her. I told her last night, I said, Adrianne, you have to stay here with us in a spirit.
The couple's reeling from yesterday's news. After several painful days in the courtroom, they have to head back again.
Hear a lot of things you don't want to hear. They say you got to hear, so I guess it'll be a little easier. I already heard it once.
Every graphic detail of their daughter's murder.
When they go talking about somebody cutting somebody's head off and arms off, it's pretty hard.
And the picture witnesses painted of her character wasn't pretty. Some told stories about her promiscuity.
Everybody's got something they're not proud of, and that part didn't bother me.
They said some bad things, but hey, I was 16. I done a heck of a lot worse.
Joanne says they've received support from the community since day one. Yesterday was no exception.
Everybody's saying, how could this have happened? Everybody.
Joanne discovered this card and teddy bear left in the front yard memorial.
Thinking of you and praying for justice for Adrianne.
Someone dropped off this homemade sign last night. Tony says despite all the time that's passed, the reality of what's happened may never sink in.
When it's all over, then she gets to come home. But that ain't happening.
He says no matter what happens with the trial, closure's just not possible.
I want her to pay for what she done, but it really don't make me feel any better. It still's not going to bring Adrianne back.
I disagree with Mr. Tarana's that he proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mark Hurdy was chosen in part as a juror for the Sarah Cole murder trial because he was smart. But prosecutors say internet research he apparently did during the trial wasn't.
It's just something you don't want to do. You don't want people doing it because you don't know what they're reading.
Hurdy's wife says her husband worked very hard during the trial and went online to take a look at case law. Cole prosecutor Jeff Taranis today says he would have liked to have known that Hurdy was surfing the net. He says the judge gives jurors instructions not to be influenced by anything other than what you hear in the courtroom. And Taranis says he's 100% certain, had he known, he would have asked the judge to replace him.
Trials are supposed to be and are by nature controlled environments. The State's Attorney's Office has grave concerns whether or not a guilty verdict would have stood up if a juror had done what is supposed to have been done here.
For the last year, they've come here often to the cemetery.
Christmas and every holiday we can think of.
They come to talk and bring flowers.
Miss you, Adrianne.
And this week, the family of Adrianne Reynolds will head to Dixon, Illinois to seek justice for the pretty girl who is now singing with the angels.
Adrianne loved to sing. That was her dream, was to be a singer.
Her voice silenced for good. Her classmate, Sarah Kolb, goes on trial Monday here in Dixon, known as the hometown of Ronald Reagan. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be home to the cold case. Sarah Kolb arrived here at the Lee County Jail over the weekend. She'll be housed with the general female adult population. When the trial's in session, she'll be brought up from the jail over this sky bridge into the courthouse, into courtroom number 410. Will she be treated just like any other prisoner?
Just like anybody else, to my knowledge. There's no special medical needs or anything at this point, so she'll just be treated like any other prisoner that comes over.
The trial moved here because of publicity after Kolb's mistrial back in November. Rock Island County Sheriff's deputies in town Tuesday to iron out security.
Lee County will provide their security for the building. We'll have a sergeant and a deputy up here to do security in the courtroom, and we're also bringing along 2 bailiffs.
The next step to pick a jury here in Lee County, fair, impartial, and not aware of the headlines.
I think they'll find people that don't know anything, but the community knows that it's coming.
Adrianne's family is coming too.
I have to do it for Adrianne's honor. You know, I want Adrianne to know that we care. I want to be there for her. I want to see her
predators go down.
High noon, and today an early court dismissal gave Rock Island County prosecutors a little more time to prepare for battle in court tomorrow. Day one of testimony in the Sarah Kolb retrial. After a hung jury last November, State's Attorney Jeff Taranas today said his strategy won't change dramatically, but there will be some fine-tuning of his case against Sarah Kolb.
Well, you always learn from something that you do a second time. There's no doubt about it. We'll make some changes. Overall, I think the jury's going to hear pretty much the same evidence.
This jury, though, won't hear two taped phone conversations with Kolb and East Moline police, where she denies knowing what happened to Adrianne the day she disappeared. A judge ruled they violated the state's eavesdropping law. Meanwhile, key witness Nate Gaudette is already in custody here in Dixon. The 17-year-old who admitted cutting up Adrianne's body, set to take the stand next week. Much of the testimony has been heard before in Kolb's first trial, but witnesses are human and unpredictable. And, says Kolb's defense attorney Dave Hoffman, when it comes to retrials, they are not always reruns.
It's not a movie script, you know. It's a state of flux. So, and people don't always say the same thing. And then other times people say exactly the same thing, word for word, like they're reading a script. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I hope she gets what she deserves.
And what is that?
I hope she gets in prison.
18-year-old Cassie Van Voren of Moline was the second witness to testify for the prosecution in Sarah Kolb's retrial today. Friends with Adrianne Reynolds and a former classmate of both Reynolds and Kolb at the Black Hawk Alternative School, she told jurors today the same story that she told on the witness stand back in November.
What did Sarah Kolb tell you?
Just that she wished she could kill her. She wanted her dead.
Van Voren testified that an emerging relationship between the two teens soured after Adrianne had sex with two boys at a party. Kolb angry and disgusted.
She had a hate for Adrianne. A big hate.
Where'd the hate stem from?
Boys.
But Van Voren told the jury that Adrianne Reynolds, the new girl in town, persisted, writing notes like this trying to make up with Kolb. Kolb wanted nothing to do with her. Outside the courtroom, Van Voren, in her first television interview, told us what she believes happened that day in the parking lot of the Taco Bell.
I think she wanted to kick her, just give her a good butt kicking, but it went too far. I think it went way too far, and I don't think she knew what to do after that.
Several witnesses have testified about death threats they say Sarah Kolb made against Adrianne Reynolds, much the same. But when Kolb's former co-worker at Showcase Cinemas took the stand today, something different happened. Sarah Kolb cried.
You could observe her crying. It may surprise you. I read every day about cold-blooded Sarah. She's a little girl.
Tansen Lucina told the jury that on the day Adrianne Reynolds disappeared, Kolb told her that she had fought with a girl and strangled her, that Corey had finished the job. She said Kolb told her that she'd knocked out the girl's teeth, that she had spit blood on Corey. Kolb's defense attorney says he can't believe that story.
Do you? Geez. No, she wasn't choked. She didn't spit up blood. Pardon me, I don't like to call people liars, but no, she doesn't have to be lying. She can be living in La La Land.
Well, according to Sarah's previous testimony, she's saying everybody's lying.
Today, a classmate testified that Kolb told her on the morning of the murder that she planned to take a girl out to lunch, bring her to a farm, beat her to death with a stick, and take her to an early grave. Hoffman says the jury still has to separate fact from fiction.
I mean, someone sat up there and for 15 minutes gives you a cock and bull story, and people are prepared to believe it. That's pretty horrifying, isn't it?
Connie and Vern Bennett were grabbing a quick bite to eat here at the Taco Bell in Moline last January 21st and found themselves in the middle of a murder case after noticing a car rocking back and forth in the parking lot.
My wife told me, said, look over there. I think there's somebody fighting in that car.
Prosecutors say Adrianne Reynolds was in the throes of being beaten and strangled in the back seat. Today for the jury, the Bennetts identified Sarah Kolb as the girl they saw in the front passenger seat, but couldn't see the back seat and never saw Kolb fighting with anyone.
Staring straight ahead and looking afraid.
You thought she looked afraid?
Yeah, I thought she had a afraid look on her face, like she was scared.
Today, the Bennetts differ on what they could have maybe done differently that day. Do you ever think to yourself, if only we would have checked?
Oh, yes, that thought has run through my mind hundreds of times.
Do you ever think, what if I would have knocked on the window?
At this day and age, you're liable to get shot if you do that.
But Connie knows one thing for sure.
I feel bad for the family. I have grandchildren that are teenagers, and I'd sure hate to have it happen to them.
Coming up tomorrow, Nate Gaudette takes the witness stand, the teen who admitted cutting up Adrianne's body with his grandpa's saw. Gaudette, now 17 years old, in a black shirt and tie and a military-style cropped haircut, told the jury today that Sarah Kolb told him she beat and strangled Adrianne Reynolds during a fight, that Kolb and Corey Gregory enlisted him to cut up Adrianne's body with his grandfather's saw, that it was Kolb's idea to dismember Adrianne because she was worried about fingerprints and dental records. Gaudette calmly detailed how he alone cut off Adrianne's head at Kolb's grandparents' farm, then her arms, her legs, and cut her torso in half, and then said the three went to McDonald's in Aledo to eat. Gaudette testified it was Kolb's idea to scatter the body parts to make them tougher to find, and that Kolb led the way to Blackhawk State Park and told Corey Gregory where to start digging. Gaudette was only charged as a juvenile and sentenced to up to 5 years in exchange for his testimony. Today, defense attorney Dave Hoffman grilled Gaudette on prior statements he made about who said what, but he really didn't waver. Here's what one court observer today from the Quad Cities had to say about Gaudette's turn on the stand.
I don't think Nathan was lying about a dang thing up there. What has he got to lose? He's already gotten his slap on the hand. 5 years, give me a break. As far as I'm concerned, it's all he said, she did, who did, whatever did. All three of them are guilty.
Peggy Meeker says Nate Gaudette's testimony today was tough to take, but strong.
What has he got to lose? Why should he lie? In my opinion, I believed every word he said.
The Bluegrass, Iowa woman has followed the case from day one and decided to come to her very first trial. Listening as the now 17-year-old in a black shirt and tie and military-style haircut testified that Sarah Kolb told him she strangled Adrianne Reynolds and Corey Gregory held her arms. Later, the two enlisted Gaudette to cut up her body. He said cutting and burying the body parts was all Kolb's idea to get rid of fingerprint evidence and dental records.
I think she was the mastermind of it all, and Corey, though, is just as guilty, and Nate, to me, is sickening.
Sickening testimony as Gaudette calmly detailed how he alone did the sawing, first cutting off Adrianne's head with his grandpa's saw, then her arms, legs, and cutting her torso in half. Then he said they all went to McDonald's to eat.
I thought it was horrific. I mean, there was a couple times I gasped. I was just like,
Gaudette never flinched on the stand. He's serving up to 5 years in a juvenile facility. He caught a break in exchange for his testimony. After hearing it for herself, Peggy Meeker had one last word.
He's going to go in there, he's going to serve 5 years, and then out he's going to walk the door. That's it. It sickens me. I'm really pissed off about what he got. Deal or no deal, he shouldn't have gotten a deal.
Nate Gaudette, the former friend of Sarah Kolb and Corey Gregory, told the jury here in Dixon that it was Sarah Kolb's idea to cut up Adrianne's body to get rid of fingerprint evidence and dental records, but he carried it out, then calmly detailed how piece by piece, starting with Adrianne's head, he dismembered her body. Using his grandfather's handsaw, he said they went to a McDonald's to eat afterwards. He was the one who was hungry. In his black shirt and tie, his haircut military style, who could do such a thing? This guy. This is Nate Gaudette around the time Adrianne Reynolds was killed. In these never-before-published or aired photos of Gaudette at a party the very month Adrianne Reynolds was killed, obtained by News Channel 8, this is the 16-year-old enlisted to do the unimaginable dirty work for his friends. At the time, Gaudette was bouncing between living with his grandmother and a friend's house, using pot, cocaine, and ecstasy, and going to the Black Hawk Alternative School. This was the crowd of Sarah Kolb and Corey Gregory, shown on a website last year called Deviant Art. Juries will never see this Nate Gaudette or this Sarah Kolb. They see this Sarah and this Nate. Makeovers for all. Unlike her first trial, the jury here in Dixon won't hear Sarah Kolb's version of what happened the day Adrianne Reynolds was killed. Her defense attorney today announcing to the judge he was through. No witnesses this time around.
The jury's heard enough. They know enough to acquit. That's the way we're going to argue it.
Hoffman will talk to jurors in his closing argument on Tuesday. He said the decision not to put Kolb on the stand was a last-minute call.
The client always makes the decision. I tell them what I think their decision should be.
And were you in agreement?
Of course.
The move caught prosecutor Jeff Tarana's off guard. Instructions for the jury weren't done, delaying deliberations until Tuesday.
I was anticipating some evidence to be presented, but by the same token, the defense has the absolute right to not present evidence, and that's what they did this time.
Courtroom sketch artist France Warbrick sat in on testimony since day one. She's not a juror, but she has her verdict.
I usually think that people that are not guilty will take the stand, but people that are guilty will not take the stand. They're too afraid of it.
If jurors think that way, then they haven't paid much attention to their oath. Have they? Do you know there was a time in our country's history when the defendant couldn't take the stand?
No news is good news for now for the family of Sarah Kolb. Her fate still in the hands of a Lee County jury. While Tony and Joanne Reynolds left the courthouse tonight, hand in hand, clinging to each other, and hope for a guilty verdict, maybe tomorrow.
Love you, Tony.
Okay. Be careful out
Oh, love you.
Tony, jurors chose to have the night to sleep on it, and prosecutor Jeff Tarana says he doesn't think it's a bad sign. Are you concerned?
No, not at all. I don't read anything into this. I continue to feel strongly about the case. And
They were out 5 hours. What does that mean? I can't tell you. It means they haven't reached a verdict.
Defense attorney Dave Hoffman downplayed reading anything into the jury's decision to call it quits and leave for the night after spending 9 hours in court today.
They want to go home. You got to remember this is different than Rock Island. One of these guys I think lives 50 miles from here, and there's someone who lives 30 miles away.
A big thumbs up for the guilty verdict from the family of Adrianne Reynolds. Today's conviction of Sarah Kolb for murder, the best they could hope for.
I don't know if I feel good or I'm just glad it's over.
After 2 trials in 4 months, finally, they say, there was justice for Adrianne. It was in their faces, and now on their cars in the courthouse parking lot.
I don't think you'll ever have closure, but I think it gives some kind of a feeling of justice for Adrianne, because that's what we're all here about, is justice for Adrianne. That's kind of been our motto these days, and I think we're all just pleased to be here. And she's not going to walk, so she needs to go away for a long time.
Sarah Kolb now faces up to 65 years in prison for the murder of the pretty teen from Texas who came to live in the Quad Cities for a better life and ended up dead. It's been a long road for the Reynolds family, sad they say, and still so senseless.
Her fatal mistake was trying to befriend Sarah Kolb. That was her fatal mistake.
Sorry wouldn't help me none. Still wouldn't bring Adrianne back.
But you feel a little better today?
Maybe after a while.
Okay, okay.
Frankly, I've known Sarah for a year now, and it's gotten a little personal. I try to keep it professional, but I like Sarah.
Defense attorney Dave Hoffman says he's grown very close to his client, Sarah Kolb.
She's become a human that I like, okay? So I see her quite differently than the general picture. She's intelligent, she has a sense of humor.
Only 17, she now faces up to 65 years behind bars. She didn't show much, if any, emotion in court when the verdict was read. But Hoffman says, don't be fooled.
I talked to her, she was scared, and anxious. And now she's probably depressed as hell.
Kolb's family left the courthouse clearly devastated by the guilty verdict. The 12 jurors also left without much comment.
I'd rather not talk about it. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Wearing shirts with Adrianne Reynolds' picture, thumbs up from her family after the guilty verdict. The reality, though, overwhelming for Adrianne's dad, Tony.
I don't know if I feel good or I'm just glad it's over.
After 2 trials in 4 months, Adrianne's family left this time around, believing, even writing on their cars about it, that justice for Adrianne was served.
I don't think you'll ever have closure, but I think it gives some kind of a feeling of justice for Adrianne, because that's what we all hear about is justice for Adrianne. That's kind of been our motto these days.
After 10 long hours of deliberations, this juror clearly had a tough time hearing the gruesome details and making the decision.
I'd rather not talk about it. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
Sarah Kolb's family sobbed as the verdict was read and left the courthouse without comment. Kolb's defense attorney said she has feelings but chose not to express them in court after the verdict.
To her, she was scared, and anxious. And now she's probably depressed as hell.
For the Reynolds family, it's 1 down, 1 to go. Corey Gregory's trial starts in May, but this time around, they're heading home with a guilty verdict, the best in the worst of times that they could have hoped for.
Sorry wouldn't help me none. Still wouldn't bring Adrianne back.
She's not going to walk, so she needs to go away for a long time.
This is the Sarah Kolb the Lee County jury saw during her 3-week trial, and this is Sarah Kolb right after they convicted her. One of the first things she did after being rebooked into the Rock Island County Jail was to get her head shaved, except for 2 long strands of hair in the front. Wednesday just happens to be haircut day here at the Rock Island County Jail. An outside barber comes in and, at their request for a small fee, cuts the inmate's hair any way they want. It's the law.
No, we have a barber that comes in every Wednesday evening, and inmates are allowed to have their hair cut. And that's how she directed the barber to trim her hair.
After the drastic makeover, jail officials decided to take a new mugshot of the 17-year-old newly convicted murderer.
Officers in the jail thought it was important to them, because of security purposes, to have another mugshot taken of her because she changed her identity. And as you can see, it's rather severe.
The sheriff says years ago there were rules against it, but a Supreme Court ruling gives inmates the right to wear their hair any way they want.
It's everybody's constitutional right, freedom of expression, to have their hair cut however they want. We have a lot of what you might call ludicrous haircuts in the jail.
It was a chance for him to explain his role in the biggest case of his life.
But to have it happen early into an administration is something that is a little unnerving.
Taranis was in office less than 2 months before he faced the public in what proved to be the most graphic murder case since chiropractor Jim Clint killed and dismembered his wife in 1983. And like the Clint case, a separate jury found the defendant guilty after a hung jury forced a second trial. Both cases also captured the public's attention, and tonight,
Joan, what is your question for Jeff Taranis?
Hi,
Jeff Taranis took questions from viewers on News Channel 8 at 6:30.
Why did neither the prosecuting attorney or defense attorneys in the Kolb case feel that Sarah could have used the defense of insanity as a factor in the case?
Sarah clearly had her bearings about herself. She clearly knew the nature of what she was charged with. She clearly understood the ramifications of what would happen to her.
Were you disappointed that she didn't take the stand?
Well, I wasn't disappointed that she didn't take the stand, but I certainly was ready in the event that she did take the stand.
Taranis told viewers he's confident he'll get the same conviction when accused accomplice Corey Gregory is tried for murder, and he says he'll seek the mandatory sentence for Kolb, assuring one viewer that the prison sentence she gets is exactly what she'll serve.
There are no good time credits that are given. It is literally a 100% crime. If she's sentenced to 58 years, she will do 58 years in prison.
There are many faces of Sarah Kolb, the one the jury saw, and the smirking, newly convicted murderer who had her head shaved in jail just hours after the verdict. But these internet photos on a website that Kolb frequented show that it was Kolb's style before her arrest.
Defiant, oppositional, rebellious, angry, confused.
Moline psychologist Dr. Richard Hutchinson says, while this was for the jury, this is for Kolb.
She's already convicted, so she says, you know, the heck with everything, I'm going to express myself in this manner again.
When Kolb was just 14 years old, she was active on an internet site called DeviantArt. Kolb's internet handle was Plays with Demons, and we found her online journal at the time and showed it to Dr. Hutchison.
Pretty hopeless.
Kolb writes of depression and suicide. Disgusted, she wrote, with my mind, my life, with the way I am and the person I have become. She says she's ugly and looks like a dude.
Yes, there's definitely been signals for quite a while about the inner turmoil and confusion.
There's also talk of a personality test she took online, grading as a homicidal maniac with no remorse, being easily PO'd, and the love of revenge. As a psychologist, when you see Sarah Kolb, what do you see?
A really confused kid. And it's, you know, really kind of, it's very sad. Very sad that she got to the point where she felt so bad that she would do what they convicted her of.
18-year-old Corey Gregory will be about 60 when he's a free man for his role in the killing and dismemberment of Adrianne Reynolds. Today, Adrianne's dad, Tony, called Gregory an animal who deserved the max.
It doesn't feel like I want anything, that's for sure. I guess, just at least that part's over with. But it don't make me feel a whole lot better.
Before he was sentenced, Gregory stood up and turned to the Reynolds family to say he was sorry. The judge, though, said it's too little too late, that Gregory could have saved Adrianne's life, but chose loyalty to Sarah Kolb instead. Gregory's mother tearfully told the court that her son knew right from wrong and made the wrong choice the day Adrianne was killed.
I love my son Corey very much, and all I can say is I hope that someday the Reynolds family can find peace and forgiveness. No further comment.
Judge Walter Broad says he wishes Gregory had come clean about what exactly happened that day, but said he knows Sarah Kolb couldn't have killed Adrianne alone. The judge alluded to it. Will we ever know what really happened in that car?
I doubt it. I don't think there's any way other than Corey and Sarah, and at this point it doesn't sound like either one of them are willing to say what really happened.
And while his attorneys asked for mercy because Gregory led authorities to Adrianne's dismembered remains, Tony Reynolds told Gregory in court that he's no hero.
I didn't want anybody to think just because he showed them where the body was, that he done anybody a favor because he put it there. A lot of people get to go home today, except Adrianne.
Adrianne's father, Tony Reynolds, says today's 50-year prison sentence for convicted killer Sarah Kolb wasn't enough.
What's enough?
The max to me would have been to give back what she took.
In an unsworn statement today, Kolb stopped short of admitting to killing Adrianne, saying, "I made a mistake I can't help but regret. I know I could have done more to stop what happened." Kolb told the judge she became good at not feeling, saying, "I felt no feeling when she died."
I don't think she's got any feelings.
Sarah she doesn't have a conscience. I don't think she cares. She's only sorry she got caught.
The Reynolds both took the witness stand today before Sarah and the judge, asking for the max.
I looked right at her and said, because she is evil and she deserves the max for what she did.
Kolb's attorney had asked for the minimum, 20 years. He says Sarah is misunderstood, a scared teenager.
She was very upset. Despite what you hear, she's not a cold-blooded little goth. She's a little girl. She was crying.
But the judge didn't buy it, calling Kolb a callous person covering her tracks, and agreed with the prosecution that Kolb and Gregory were equal participants.
I do not separate the two acts that Mr. Hoffman talked about. The one simply tried to cover up the fact that the other was committed. And the manner in which that was done is, in my opinion, as I stated in court, simply evil.
A sentence that brings some peace to this family. While the case is closed, it's far from over.
Do you feel closure after today, Tony?
Nope. I don't know when that'll come or what it is.
Gone on the internet.
Gone on the internet and looked for things.